Hello, everyone. I decided to do a little research after I talked to Jimmy regarding the session that I had with him. And we spent a lot of time talking about Peter Green. And honestly, I really wasn't very familiar with him before this time, but now he really stood out to me, particularly that he showed up and then he started to try to communicate with me, and obviously had an interesting perspective of things. And as people do, when they go on the other side, they start to realize what life was about and have a better sense of what was important, what wasn't. I thought about his relationship with money, and there's kind of a common thread here. And the way that money is perceived in our society is that money in itself is evil. And we are at the advent of strong proponents of completely getting rid of money, the paper money, and going into this digital, completely digital format. Some people say gold back. And I know that there's a lot of discussions regarding it, but it kind of bothers me. I feel like this has erupted as a result of some religious teachings that there is some form of astral beings that have been trying to create an environment, and when they're tired of it, they create another one. And it just feels like this big experimental ground, and to see if we can survive or we can kind of float along some kind of flooded river and see if we're going to make ends meet. I don't like what the experimentation is all about, and the trauma and the struggle that people have had to go through these many mud flood, dystopian, and apocalyptic agendas, because there's been so many of them. Mass destructions, mass murders, many people, under the guise of being everyone's evil, not ever taking responsibility or some oversight where there seems to be an obstruction to justice or hidden agendas of many astral beings of that which we cannot see, wielding their hand in our experiences, and then turning it on us, teaching us or exposing humanity to many different things that are bad, knowing that we'll be going down that bad road, and then they can try out another experiment. So when I see that there is a common thread, or someone is directing me to look at something, I can't shake it. I have to proceed and look further, but why not take you along for the ride for those that actually care? Some might not find this interesting, or some may be very heartfelt regarding, hey, let's have this change. Let's allow everything to just break down and cut off communications, let people live in the street for a while, and, whatever, we'll have some money. We'll get some gold, some of us will be rewarded, and those that just aren't awake, well, too bad. And for me, that just seems heartless, emotionless, conscienceless. And I'm not going to say that they're bad. We haven't had control over this world. We haven't even had a chance since the inception of humanity without these many controllers and handlers inserting different types of things into our reality, distorting the minds and the corruption of our children. And we see that it's never been more elevated. And yet, why are we taking the blame for this? Why is humanity taking the blame? So I guess, I don't know if you call this a rant or rave, but anyhow, getting back to Peter Green, I thought this was interesting, and it brought me down a road of exploration on him. And so I'm just going to move forward and play it.
When they reached Munich, Peter was greeted by some unexpected fans.
Certainly John McVie would fully blame an event in Germany where Peter took some more drugs and for sure never really came back from that, to our recollection. And John is, to this day, absolutely furious with these people. We call them the German jet set. And they captured Peter completely and pulled him away.
We got to Munich airport. All of a sudden these people showed up. I don't know if it was 2 or 3. But I remember the 2 of them specifically, a very beautiful girl. I mean, like model actress looking, dressed in this black velvet. And, whoa. And this guy next to her, and he looked like a John Lennon. He had his wire-rimmed glasses and a cape. And they met Pete right there. It looked like it had been arranged somehow. And it was kind of unspoken. I thought, well, maybe Mick and them know something about these people. They didn't acknowledge any of the rest of us. They were very rude.
But the reality was that Peter was already set to leave Fleetwood Mac, pretty much. But my God, this was like the final nail in the coffin, which of course we related to as a band.
Okay, so here's the story. So you have this thing with Peter Green having this bad acid trip. Something that's strange to the whole band is these people from Munich show up. And they're somewhat elite. Then they further talk about them being a part of a cult. And as I was talking about money earlier, Peter Green had written this song called the Green Monolithia, and it's pretty much a condemnation against the band, so he had some bitter feelings. He wanted the band to not take payment or to pay any of the payments that they made or income. I'm not sure what the percentage was, but he wanted them to donate the money, and they were, I mean, of course, something like that's free will. But this, here again, this is the indoctrination of that money's evil, or that there's a guilt to have money, or, someone has to sacrifice. And I have nothing against helping others, but the reason behind it, and I do wonder if this isn't a part of this construct, a religious construct of that money's evil, or the root of all evil, and that what it causes people to do. Some of these things come in as being very extreme, and I can't help but think that we can say it's MK Ultra because it's associated with LSD, and we know that's a man-made drug, and we don't know what type of chemical information is actually inserted in there over and above, opens a person up, and then they start acting out. But so these people from Munich, they're in Munich, and they show up, and somehow they pretty much take over. Here's this gentleman talking about
zone enough or whatever it was. They're very intellectual types, They said, oh, there's a party we've been invited to at the this big, huge mansion place in the forest.
We went out to this sort of mansion, pseudo, big old weird house.
So we're driving into there, and finally we come to this place.
So this big old weird house. I keep on thinking about the Shaw House and all that kind of stuff that Peter was talking about. He's talked about how this is how they do it, these cults. And it also crossed my mind that because the woman was, she was very attractive, that it was a part of this real Damen type of scenario, seductress that was set up to follow through with whatever they wanted, and she's there with her counterpart that conveniently looks similar to John Lennon.
I didn't realise what was going on until I tried to talk to someone and didn't realise they were German. And I was on this trip and I didn't understand what was going on. Then I see Pete in this studio playing this guitar with all these, it was like mayhem. Pete was laughing and, he thought it was great.
Dennis Keane, I have some recollection of him being somewhat trying to be the responsible sort of road manager guy. It's like, come on, it's time to go. But in truth, they started sort of getting to us as well.
And then as like anything else, it wears off, and if you can wear off with it, then you know what's going on, you're aware of it. And that's immediately I said, well, we got to get out of here.
He was practically in tears. I tried to kind of, reassure him, look, God is in control, he can keep, I did my best, but it was really weird. And the music coming up from below, down there, it was bad news.
Bad news.
So I really was.
So, he's kind of been affected by it. And, if you want, we will have the link there for you to listen to the entire thing. But the scenario that they play out is that this is something really weird happened there. There's some very strange noises coming from the basement. And a very large house. It's surreal. They get everyone drugged up. Peter's playing music. This guy, Peter Green. And the others are recognizing that there's something really strange about what's happening here. Almost you get the idea that it's paranormal, cultish, and they want to get out.
They were locked in something.
Okay, so this is
he'd
interesting.
Be sitting in the back of the car with Danny, and he'd like this, and Danny would do it, and he would be on the other side, but it's like this together, and I can't remember how this. They were locked in something together, and it wasn't good.
Peter Green and Danny Cowan both went together to that house in Munich. Both of them took acid, as I understand it. Both of them, as of that day, became seriously mentally ill.
Both of them.
I think it's too much of a coincidence.
And he said that they somehow got maybe a soul fracture or something happened where the two of them got co-joined in a very odd way, and we're literally making a similar face but like a mirror image of it and locking in. This is not normal. This is not just drug use. This is further beyond that. And so here's this very odd scenario, this system, and I was like, trying to understand, what was going on. And you just see this happening. People are hand selected, it seems, of certain individuals are there to make a statement, are there to be used or handled, and everyone can say, well, it's his own fault that he was doing drugs and this and that. Absolutely, and that goes for anyone. And a lot of people make decisions even in the corporate world that is soul selling or just in daily life. I mean, it's a rather a consciousness shift, but this is not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about some supernatural energy actually coming in and having a specific agenda that seems to be consistent, that no one is really talking about. And this is, I won't call it a Christian agenda, but having a facade, or maybe it's the Antichrist kind of agenda, because it's this switching around of, and the Christ consciousness is supposed to be, good, benevolent. It's supposed to have this feeling of love towards one another, but this is more of a possession with an overlay of a religious facade. And so this is where I think that we get into trouble. So this is the song that the Green Manalish is about money, and I'll just play that here.
should agree, my leash to crawl. All my trying is up, all you're bringing is down.
So this is, the money's evil, and that's something that he's looking at. So then I found this story, which I had never really heard of him, and I guess that at some point the British rock took off prior to the Beatles, inspired by a lot of the American rock bands, particularly Elvis, and then there were these whole bunch of people that were trying to be like Elvis. And this guy, Vince Taylor, called himself Vince Taylor, the devil, the Black Devil, I guess, Le Diable Noir. So I just want you to, there's a reason why I'm showing you this. You'll see in a second. I'll go like this, and...
Expatriate Brian Holden had spent most of his life in the United States, soaking in the rockabilly of Presley and Gene Vincent. Returning to England and its burgeoning rock scene in 1958, he impressed crowds at the Two Eyes with his black leather and rockabilly style. Soon signed to Parlophone, he changed his name to Vince Taylor and assembled a band dubbed the Playboys. Unfortunately, their first 3 singles failed to chart, and Taylor was dropped. But the B-side of his second single is contender for the greatest rockabilly track of all time, namely Brand New Cadillac.
Well, my baby drove up in a brand new Cadillac.
It was bad because it had the words Cadillac and Ford in it, and we weren't allowed to advertise on the BBC. They called that advertising, you see.
Later covered by The Clash on London Calling. The track features the incendiary twang of Joe Moretti on guitar.
So I bring up the Cadillac, and you'll see that there's something towards the end that brings up a Cadillac again. The Cadillac being symbolic of success, money, and the American dream, because it was an American vehicle. In my opinion, they're big and they're comfy, the luxury, but it's the whole thing with the money, the extreme of wanting the money, wanting the fame, the popularity, and then also the repelling or seeing the money as evil.
Taylor's audible sneer and a lyric detailing the alien Americana of motor worship. But Britain was beginning to tire of its Elvis clones, so Taylor shifted his focus to France, where he gained a following and became known as the Black Devil of rock. Amid this, LSD took a hold of him, and paranoid delusions about UFOs and biblical prophets began to plague him. At one UK concert, he proclaimed to be Matthias, son of Jesus Christ. Taylor never truly lived up to his potential, but his tale of rock and roll martyrdom would be mythologized on David Bowie's The Rise and Fall of Ziggy Stardust and the Spiders from Mars.
Okay, so...
Edward Elgar, Gustav Holst.
So, there it is. He proclaims himself to be the son of Jesus Christ, Matthias. From an acid trip. And so, some of you might know these stories and just say, oh yeah, this is old news or whatever. Yeah, I'm just going to bring you through it because it's really weird. It's very, very weird to me. And that he, has this acid trip. He changes his name. And then he, it's almost like he loses his identity. But why, of all things, does he want to proclaim that he is like Jesus or the son of Jesus? So here's another clip of him.
Club corralled them off during one of the performances, and the police had to intervene. Vince Taylor was back in the news once again. On May 22nd of 1962, Vince and the Playboys had a concert scheduled at the Locomotive in Paris to welcome Joe Barbera and Vince's sister, Sheila. Whom the couple met upon their arrival was not Vince Taylor. He had gone to London to get paid, an attempt to settle up on concerts they had already performed, but never actually received payment, as at the time, Playboys were hurting for cash. When he left, he had sworn he would be back in time for the show at the Locomotive. He fulfilled this promise partially. Who actually returned was someone, but it certainly was not Vince Taylor.
The door opens and Vince Taylor walks in. My God. His shoes were absolutely filthy. He'd got long hair. And he hadn't combed it for about a week. He hadn't shaved for a couple of days. And he was carrying in his arm this roll of material. It was like a purple, satiny coloured material. And it was all sitting around. And he just walks in. And we knew something was wrong. He just looked at us, he said, "You think I'm Vince Taylor, don't you?" "Well, I'm not." He says, "My name is Matthews. I'm the son of Jesus Christ." And he had a bottle of wine in his hand, a bottle of Matthews wine. He had a bottle of pills in his pocket. And he's died down a bit, so I said, "Right, Vince, you know we've got a gig tonight, don't you?" "Oh, yes, that's why I'm back, that's why I'm back," he said, "that's why I'm back." But just a minute, we're sorry to ask you this, Vince, but you went to get us some money, right? The hotel bill, we haven't eaten for 3 days, like we're starving. Like, please, you know, have you got any money? You've got the money. That's all you guys are interested in, isn't it? Money. Money. I need money, he says. Money. "Yes, I've got some money," he said. "Yes, I've got some money." "Where is it?" "I'm Jesus Christ." He says, "You know what I think about money? I'll show you what I think about money." And he lit all the money. I said, "Vince, what are you doing? Shall I like the money?" He said, "Money's not important. It's God that's important, not money." And he threw it on the floor. And it was all burning on the floor, burning the carpet. Next morning, we got up. Vince comes downstairs. Oh, he's combed his hair and he's shaved, cleaned his shoes, got his black leather gear on. Comes down, normal as anything.
By the way, the necklace that he's wearing is a Joan of Arc necklace that he had picked up. So, you know, it's like the martyr. And here goes.
Off we go. Oh, thank God Vince is all right. So off we go down the door. There's a poster outside the door. So as we're walking in, Vince looks at that, takes out one of these felt pens out of his pocket, crosses out Vince Taylor and writes Matthews. And we went, oh my God, here he goes again. Anyway, walks in, still with black leather, bit of makeup on, lovely. And he always had a big jug of water, and it was water. So we started off, dun, 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 come on everybody. Dun, 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 dun. Now you just keep on going till he's ready to come in. So he comes out on stage and gets this glass of water in his hands. And then he walks off the stage and he walks into the audience. And it's not a seated audience, so they're sitting on the floor. And he walks on to every single person, water in his hand. God bless you, my son. God bless you, my son. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. All the way. God bless you. God bless you. Bless you, my son. Bless you.
He'd gone on stage without his band, but dressed in white robes, and told everybody that indeed he was the coming Messiah, and he just got booed off. I mean, they just went mad, and it was like the end of his career.
A few years later, I was walking along Old Compton Street, and I heard somebody saying, I'm Jesus Christ, I'm Jesus. And I looked across the road, and I saw this guy with this black beard. And I looked again, and it was Vince Taylor.
And that one day, I remember on Tottenham Court Road, he dragged out this world map, and we were crouching on all fours outside Tottenham Court Road tube station, and he was showing me where all the aliens had their bases throughout under the Arctic and like in this mountain, and there's people stepping over our map, and I think, what the hell am I doing in the middle of Russia, where this bonkers American looking at the map of the world, and he's telling me, and I thought, there's.
He's talking about aliens. So he had opened up, started seeing things. And then he latched onto this Christian agenda. But I thought it was interesting because it was both aliens and him proclaiming that he was Matthew, the son of Christ.
Something in this, I'm going to remember this. This is just too good.
He was baptized with God-given eyes, but he took it all too far.
Ziggy Stardust.
So Vince Taylor really became very much one of the building blocks of the Ziggy character. You know? It was, I just thought he was just too good to be true. He was of another world. He was from somewhere else. And he was definitely part of the blueprint of this strange character that came from somewhere.
So what had happened to Vince Taylor? Who was this Matthew, son of God character? And why was the jet black machine now adorned in flowing purple robes? Days later, the band found out that Vince had been in London, but he had ended up at a party in honor of Bob Dylan, where he had taken LSD for the first time in his life. He liked the experience, and someone at this party managed to help him buy $200 worth of the drug. Reports claim to the purity and strength of this particular batch of LSD, as it had been concocted specifically for Bob Dylan in an effort to help expand the influential singer-songwriter's consciousness. Previous reports of an intensely powerful, severe reaction to smoking a single marijuana cigarette point towards the possibility of perhaps Taylor having some sort of allergic or extra sensitive constitution, as after he ingested the small amount of marijuana, he had an extreme reaction. As there are reports, he was telling people he had become an airplane. Upon taking his first LSD dose, Vince did not stop taking the acid. He reportedly had been tripping nonstop for several days, close to a full week, when he finally returned to Paris and met the band at the hotel. Under the effects of LSD, he came to the club Locomotive, anointing the crowd and giving sips of the wine bottle to the audience. His sister, Sheila, being amongst the crowd, was very frightened. When asked what had happened, her brother's answer was, "I'm not Vince, I am the Son of God." And he began to pray and then fly into a rage for no reason. As the night went on, Vince left the stage area and wandered out into the street, randomly anointing strangers and praying loudly to God as he headed towards the Seine River, with a crowd of about 20 enthusiastic followers and witness of this spectacle. Later at the hotel, he had told everyone that they must return to California. He said, "There will be a plane ready on the runway at midnight, and the pilot will be God. I am the Son of God. I will take you, flying everyone to Hollywood." Eventually, as his issues overcame him, sanity prevailed as Sheila brought news that after speaking with him at length, Vince had agreed to seek psychiatric care. And
Okay. I have no idea why he thought everyone should go to Hollywood or California, but maybe there's more to that. This is the alcohol that he chose. And here's David Bowie, Ziggy Stardust. What is this? And, you know, what does this represent? Talks about the spiders from Mars. I started thinking about the spiders from Mars because he was talking about seeing aliens. He was seeing aliens, and he was having this impression that he was Jesus, the Son of God, or the son of Jesus Matthias. And then there was this whole thing of I'm wondering about these. I've heard about these spiders from Mars and their impact, and you wonder the mind control also maybe opening up, blowing over out his third eye, kind of opening it up incredibly and creating these hallucinations, but also tapping into this astral field and tuning into something. What made why were the lyrics including the Spiders from Mars? Were these some of the things that he had mentioned regarding the ETs that he was talking about? It's a very strange, and then, you know, like a leopard messiah, that he breaks down the meaning here. I don't know why I thought of the Gilliland Ranch with the ghillie there, but it probably, I don't know if that makes any sense or was connected at all. Something about this cat from Japan. And this song in particular of David Bowie, he's kind of also implying about, you know, when someone stands out in a band and that everyone else wants to stand out, but sometimes there's like one key person in a band that gets a lot of attention, and so he talks about that. But here again, you know, it's a weird story. This is the couple that showed up around, and someone brought this up also during, I believe, in the chat, which made me look into it. And so she was a model. You can see she was quite attractive. And then, of course, he's got the round glasses. I believe they were both from Munich or from Germany at least. Uschi Obermeier and Rainier Langens. Those are the ones that met Peter Green and were a part of this cult, this underground. And it was interesting because she was wearing velvet. I thought about the Velvet Underground. And, you know, a lot of this stuff was going on during the 60s. That this was part of this intentional shift that happened right after the 50s, the 60s being the entry point of the beatniks and the early transition music usually heads off certain things. What I'm seeing in our time period right now, it's just anarchy. We didn't even have any type of music or transition into this change or this mud flood that they want to impose on us, but rather it's this experience right here. MK Ultra directly into rioting and the destruction. So here she is, a fashion model. She was involved in protests of 1968. Part of the left-wing movement in 1968 in Germany. So they find this fashion model that is very good at passively recruiting probably tons and tons of people. Considered a sex symbol. Jane Fonda did the same thing. I guess there was quite a few of them like that. And you see, you know, this Berlin-based Commune 1 is what they called it. She met Communard Rainier Langens at the concert at the end of 1968 and then moved from Munich to the Berlin-based Commune 1. Langens became her boyfriend at the time. Very strange experience, and this is where all of this really strange activity happened with Peter Green in the Obermeier. Obermeier and Bachorn traveled the world on a customized bus, first spending 3 years in Asia and then going to Mexico in the US. I thought this was interesting because right now Asia is appearing to be a world power, wanting to bring in the new monetary system and all this, having all this gold that no one really knows how they accumulated all this gold. And then of course Mexico, who's also predicted the end of the world, and their 2012 event. And so conveniently, they spent time in these two locations. And of course, the U.S., where I believe she's in California, of all places. You know, let's all go to California. Everyone's supposed to meet in California. And let's look at what's going on in California right now. So, I'm trying to see if there's anything else here. And there's that alcohol again. Mateus, just Matthew coming to visit us. Here's this, I happen to see this, and it's a lost gospel, claims Jesus and Mary Magdalene were married and had children. New translation of 1,500-year-old manuscript said to fill in significant gaps about Jesus and Mary Magdalene's life, but the Church of England dismisses it as Pythonesque. So, Mary Magdalene was a co-Messiah, the wife of Jesus and the mother of his child, according to the translation of an ancient manuscript. The authors of a new book claimed that by decoding the manuscript and translating it from Syriac language, that shed light on the politics leading up to the crucifixion, fill in significant gaps about Jesus' life, and present him as a human who placed importance on family, marriage, love, and sex. And so this, of course, inspired some of these movies that came up. He also describes Mary Magdalene as a co-Messiah, co-deity, defender of humanity. This is the empowerment of the female that many females would like to see. I don't know if this is a fringe side of Lilith, or maybe it's a positive thing that they're depicting, trying to show that females have a voice. I guess that's another topic. I don't know if I need to go down that road. But I think the point is that they started to analyze it, and they're questioning whether or not that this is true. And they believe that, and I'll also have a copy of this so people can take a look. Ultimately, they're saying that the Lost Gospel is based on a 29-chapter manuscript dating back to about AD 570 that was purchased by the British Museum from an Egyptian monastery in 1847 before being translated to the British Library some 20 years ago. It is the tale of Joseph. So originally they believe it was the tale of Joseph, recipient of the famed coat of many colors in the Old Testament, and his wife Asenath. The manuscript was translated from Syriac into English by Mr. Jacobovici, who is an Israeli-Canadian investigative journalist, and Barry Wilson, a professor of religious studies in New York at York University in Toronto. Although the script does not mention Jesus and Mary, they claim that Joseph stands for Jesus and Asenath for Mary Magdalene. They said the names of their sons were Ephraim and Manasseh, may also be a code. The authors said that although the literal story of Joseph and Asenath is known to experts, subtitles or subtleties were lost when it was translated into Latin and Greek in the 12th century. By returning to the ancient Syriac, the Middle Eastern literary language from the 4th to 8th centuries, they claimed that they were able to read the entire text and decode its meaning. Crucially, they said the manuscript was accompanied by 2 letters and proved that the person who authorized the translation into Syriac knew that they were taking a great risk. The letters confirmed the manuscript is written in code and contained a hidden message about Jesus, they said. One of them had been mysteriously cut in half, fueling suspicions of censorship. The code was deciphered by American digital imaging experts using a state-of-the-art equipment, and so they checked it out. The Christian monks religiously copied this text for hundreds of years. Joseph is called the Son of God. The language is very graphic. It says that Joseph is also known as Jesus. And he also said that he had sexual intercourse with Mary Magdalene. The story is about Joseph and Asenath, as Israelites would have been of no interest to monks. So they said, because it was more interesting to talk about Jesus than Joseph. They just switched the names around. So it's, I don't know. I mean, I just kept on bumping into some of this stuff. The Dan Brown's story, the Da Vinci Code. There's a lot of belief in this theory. Peter says it's not true. However, there's probably some elements of truth in a lot of these different stories of people that are kind of have a glimpse of some secret documents here and there and then create a whole story, just like they did with The Last Temptation of Christ and some of these other movies. Why am I bringing this up? Because there is this really strange idea of religion, and especially in a time of crisis, people are vulnerable. And I want people to be aware and see what's going on, because it seems to be the agenda that has consistently worked for thousands of years on humanity. And I'm not really sure if this is what the purpose of this is. I really don't. Here's another rock star. And I talked about this before. I'm sure people thought I was being extreme. The only reason I knew it was headed in this direction. I knew that it was headed in this direction. Jared Leto has started a cult on an island and his followers call him prophet. And people are like, do we really need another Jonestown? But why? Jesus. I guess that people told him he looked like Jesus, so he started dressing that way and performing that way. And it seems to be something that happens with these rock stars. They're selected because they have a certain type of, charisma or whatever that is. Are they all Jesus? Or are they all just being pulled into the same program? I don't doubt that there were experimental drugs being used by many of them. This is from the movie Into the Wild, and remember I talked about earlier about the money. It starts off in one of the videos that I saw of Into the Wild. He's sitting at a table in some restaurant with his parents, and his father wants to give him a gift. And he says, well, we're going to get rid of that piece of junk that you have outside, which is a car, and we're going to get you something better. And he looks at them and says, well, what do I need, a Cadillac? And so here's the Cadillac statement again. He says, there's absolutely nothing wrong with that car, but the parents were very social conscious. They're very into money. And you have this kind of, there are those that are very much into money and privilege and achievement. Many did work hard to achieve some of these goals. They wanted to pass it down to their children, and the children, come in with a different consciousness, and they have a different idea of life. But there was something like, this is evil, money is evil, and he didn't learn that from his parents. It came from somewhere.
You know what I don't understand? I don't understand why every fucking person is so bad to each other so fucking often. You can do anything. You can go anywhere.
So there it is. There's this feeling, there's this struggle that we have in our world right now, and some people are like, I've had enough. I've had enough of the money. I've had enough of the credit cards and the debt, especially students coming out of school. I can't help but think that many of these students are like looking at their school loans and just for that reason alone jumped into Antifa. And I'm sure that, of course, there's all that other mind control, brainwashing that's been going on, and the strong, very strong political agenda that was been moving through these professors for years, indoctrinating everyone through this Marxism belief, which on paper it looks like one thing, but to actually live it is an entirely different thing. And what's shocking is a lot of the students aren't even looking at that. They're not even reasonable. Some of them are even perceiving themselves to be of another race. It's very bizarre. It's very delusional. But I understand why it's being triggered. We're in a world that's very money focused. We're in a world that people are trying to say, well, what's more important? You know, and Jesus being the one that is symbolic of saying, you know, get rid of the money, go out in there and live. But that too sounds good on paper. I don't know how many people have ever lived in a place of struggle or financial need, or have ever had to be homeless, or, you know, have to live in a very difficult situation. Some people have. There's people that live from week to week, barely getting by on Social Security or whatever, and they're elderly or they're injured and they can't do anything else. Burning money is not an option for them. So what do we do with this information? I don't fully know. I do know that this Jesus that's moving through the rock stars, or this Antichrist, or whatever you want to call it, this Savior that's telling us to get rid of everything, that's telling us that it will be better if we let the world just kind of break down and all the systems are gone and get rid of the police and everything. On paper, it sounds really cool. You know, for some people, they think, yeah, we'll be free, we'll be liberated. Just like he felt like he would be liberated. Look at him standing near the water.
Your mom and dad.
I'm going to be happy now, right?
Living their lives somewhere.
In the beginning, it's fine. In the end, it doesn't turn out very well. And that's part of the message here. This is the part that's more insidious. We see everything as, well, you know, the divine wants us to get rid of everything, to be free of it all, to live in the streets, to live off the land, to be completely off the grid or whatever. And some people, that's fine. It's kind of planned. It's premeditated. Like, you know, you have an intention, you've planned ahead, you know where your resources are coming, you know where your food's coming from. Not, let's destroy everything, and then people are wondering, oh, that's right, the stores are gone. We can't get any food. What are we going to eat? All the hospitals are gone. What happens if we're injured? The police are gone. What happens if a person just decides to try to kill me? You know, what is going on that people are not sorting through this? And I know that many of the people who listen to me, they know exactly what I'm talking about. But I just feel like I needed to vent this out. So you have this, you know, simple, we manipulate your DNA with a vaccine or drugs. The drugs have been their tool to puppet everybody. Implant you with a chip, make society cashless. There it is. Put all the money on the chip, and then you will do exactly as you're told, or we will turn off your chip so you won't be able to buy anything or do anything, and you'll starve until you decide you're ready to be obedient again. That's exactly what I feel all of this about is obedience. Why did we go down this whole road of talking about Peter Green and some of these others? maybe the universe is trying to show us something, to look a little deeper into what's happening in our world around us, to not take it lightly. We're really on the brink of something very pivotal right now, and we need to have everyone in the right awareness of not considering some kind of weird utopian something and, oh yeah, we're going to have all this gold, right, at the expense of everything being destroyed, burnt down, or, annihilated in some way. And now you get to live. But you won't live like we do. You won't live like Bill Gates does in his comfortable home. They're planning on taking the homes away from people, or they'll do whatever they can. Can't allow any of this to happen. I don't think that there's a divine purpose in that. I think there's a higher purpose for us. I think they should suffer. I think the ones that are planning all of this should be brought to justice. The rest of the masses should not have to suffer for the sins of a few and the corruption and what they have done to our society. People can say, well, there's not enough food, there's not enough this, you're destroying the earth, there's too many people, you have a carbon footprint, all of this other stuff. Now let's get to the truth of the matter, who is actually causing this. And I think for the first time, maybe the ones that are actually responsible for all of these injuries towards humanity should be the ones that pay the price. And for the first time, maybe the rest of humanity should get a break. That's my opinion. So these are my thoughts for today. This is as a result of what I was seeing with Jimmy, and I'm going to attach that so you can listen to it. I really liked what Raziel talked about, and whether you like angels or not. Some people think angels are bad, they're all bad, they're low vibration, blah, blah, blah. But I would appreciate any being that actually cares about someone else, and I value that more than some kind of hierarchy of who is enlightened or whatever. I think I've had enough of title and someone that takes on their value as being greater than another. We're all the same, and I don't really care. And if there's an angel that is going to do the right thing, then I think that's great. If there's an ET that's going to do the right thing, that's great. If there's humans that are going to do the right thing, that's what I'm looking at. And I guess I don't know how to close here because I feel like I could talk about this forever, but for your sake, I'm going to stop. But thank you for listening to me, helping me get through this. And please write down your comments and tell me your thoughts. And you have a right to disagree with me on this. And there's definitely two sides to the coin on this topic regarding money, MK Ultra, drugs, and the use of people in rock and roll, the use of using people to bring forth some kind of Christ agenda, and whatever that is. But ultimately, I mean, we know all this is bad. So share your thoughts. Thank you for listening, and have a good day.